60,000 passengers stranded, customer service lines shut down, 17,000 people affected, some lost jobs and some lost careers. Most people think that Spirit Airlines just had a streak of bad luck, but no, that's not the case. In fact, Spirit Airlines is one of the greatest modern examples of what happens when your business has no room for pressure. See, some of us don't collapse because we're bad, we're not smart, we're evil. No, some businesses collapse because they're just too fragile. And honestly, some people's personal finances are too fragile. One missed paycheck, one emergency, one interest rate increase, one lawsuit, one medical bill, one slow month in business, and the whole thing starts shaking. Can't handle it. Things start to feel like they're going to collapse. But that's why this conversation matters. Because we can learn something from Spirit Airlines. We can learn something about business, and we can also learn something about life. The acting CEO at the time of the shutdown, Dave Davis, said surging jet fuel prices helped kill Spirit. While there's truth to that, most people don't realize the business was already struggling, already on life support. And believe me, I love the fact that the truth shows that jet fuel prices did not only go up, they surged. But before that ever happened, Spirit actually went bankrupt twice. Now, bankruptcy doesn't always mean a company disappears overnight. Sometimes it means I owe more than I can realistically pay, and I need to get the courts involved to help me survive. So Spirit basically had to go on life support. And a firm tied to Citadel, who's in big private credit, helped restructure hundreds of millions of dollars in debt to keep them alive. But eventually, lenders looked at the situation and realized, look, this hole is only getting bigger, not smaller. And so they decided we'd rather recover what we can now than continue to fund a decline. And entrepreneurs need to hear this, because revenue can hide weakness for a long time. And a business can look successful while financially bleeding underneath. And see, some people that you know, that I know, that's on social media, they flex revenue, but they never talk about margins. They flex sales, but they don't talk about debt. Some people flex sales and they don't talk about customer retention. Some people flex lifestyle, but everything is finance. Nothing is owned outright. And that's why wisdom says, don't just focus on making money. Focus on keeping it. Don't just focus on looking good. Focus on having some margin left over when it's all said and done. This is why I like people like Dave Ramsey. This is why I like people like Anthony O'Neill on these topics, because we find out in Spirit's scenario that if $1 billion company can go under because they're not watching the debt, that they're over leveraged, that things are leaking, what do you think can happen to you? So, and while me and Dave Ramsey and me and Anthony O'Neill don't agree on everything, I think this Spirit business case proves out a lot of the truth that's in their teaching. So let's break down Spirit Airlines, because I want to break it down using something that they taught us in business school. If you've been in an MBA program in the 2010s, you would have heard about the business model canvas by Alex Osterwalder. You would have likely heard about it. It was talked about at Stanford. There's many videos you can find online. And basically, it's a way to look under the hood of what was going on in the business. So I want to show you this, and I want to break this down for Spirit. So first, the business model canvas is kind of like hopefully you can see that. So first, let's talk about the center of this. I'm going to come this way. Okay, so the middle of our business model canvas, we're going to put the letters V and P. Can you see that there? VP, and that stands for value proposition. Value proposition. Spirit's value proposition was simple. We are cheap. We're the cheapest. We're not luxurious. We're not premium. We're not comfortable, but we are cheap. And cheap works until your costs stop being cheap. Cheap makes a whole lot of sense, and they grew a big business until others start showing that they can do the same thing. See, some businesses compete on excellence, and others compete on price. And price is dangerous because somebody can always go lower. And eventually, what we saw happen in Spirit's case is that the major airlines started to copy them. I fly Delta typically, and what you started to see was basic economy showing up on Delta. Basic economy showing up on American Airlines. So now customers could get cheap without flying Spirit, right? So it makes it difficult because your value proposition is we're going to be cheap. We're going to be the cheapest. But you got to be careful trying to be the cheapest. Because if your entire financial strategy is about how cheap can I be, how cheaply can I survive, you make yourself vulnerable. And this is important because a lot of times we deal in a mindset with a lack sort of mindset. And we think we're just going to, I'm just not going to spend anything. But inflation will catch you. Gas will catch you. Rent will catch you. Insurance will catch you. And at some point, you need some margin in your life. That's why wealthy people don't just chase lower expenses. They build higher earning power. They make themselves more valuable. And so even when we look at Spirit's business, instead of becoming more valuable, we're just going to be very simple. We're just going to be cheap. And that worked until it didn't. So what does cheap attract? What does cheap attract? So when we're looking at this, cheap attracts really one thing. So here's our value. Here's our customer segment. CS, our customer segment. What does cheap attract? Think about that question. What does cheap attract? Spirit focused on ultra price sensitive customers. People that are ultra price sensitive. Ugh. Man, I want to go somewhere, but I don't want to pay that. Man, ooh, they charging me $1 more. Ooh. Those are people who mostly cared about one thing. That's the lowest ticket price. But Spirit, in doing this strategy, which was, look, at the time, it was revolutionary. It was, wow, look at what Spirit's doing. It made people commented on them as being innovative. So I don't want you to get this wrong. At the time, Spirit looked to be making a smart move. But here's what no one realized. Spirit accidentally trained its customers to only care about price. Now that's all we care about. So every interaction becomes a fight over price. Because if your customer has no loyalty, they'll leave you over a $10 difference, a $12 difference, a $1 difference. And see, some of us as entrepreneurs, some entrepreneurs, they'll build customers, and others build bargain hunters. And those are not the same thing. You want someone who wants to consume from you. And this happens in personal finance too. Some people build actual wealth, and others, they just build a lifestyle that it's fully dependent on if I can find the cheapest, if I can get a discount, if I can do it with debt, if I can get some temporary relief, there's a difference between surviving and building. And when everything is focused on price, when that's the customer segment you're after, that's the only customer segment you're going to get. There's nothing else to offer, nothing else to discuss, nothing else to talk about. It's all about the price. And now, if you don't have the lowest price, well, I might leave you. And unfortunately for Spirit, that's exactly the type of customers they attract. And now you have revenue streams. What's the revenue stream from this? And what happened in Spirit's example, they began to monetize discomfort. You want a bag? Okay, you gotta pay. You want a better seat? You gotta pay. You want snacks? You gotta pay. You want a glass of water? You gotta pay. Are you breathing too hard? You probably gotta pay because everything was about squeezing an extra dollar. So they didn't really have a different customer. They had the same ultra price sensitive customer. What is the customer willing to pay for became a fight. Everything became so transactional. So their entire business model wasn't building loyalty. We're just transacting. We're both negotiating. We're fighting for who can keep the most money. But the problem is when your business model makes customers feel punished, you are creating resentment instead of loyalty. Some of our finances feel the same way. Every month feels like penalties. You got credit cards, late fees. You got credit cards, interest. You haven't budgeted. You're dealing with overdraft. You're dealing with minimum payments. And this is why Anthony O'Neill is right in many cases. That's why debt is dangerous. Because eventually your money stops working for you and starts working against you. It's all a fight. And that's where we got to be careful. Because in our own finances, no one's really vested in making sure we're good for the long term. Everyone's focused on now. And the same thing happens in our finances when we're too focused on now and not thinking long term. Oh, I can't afford to invest in my 401k. I can't afford to put any money back. I can't afford it right now. I'm not focused on that right now. I need money now. But every time you're focused on getting money now, you've got to realize that you're giving up money later. What do you need to sacrifice now in order to be in a better position a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And this is the problem with being so transactional, so focused on now. There's no loyalty. Nothing's long term. Those airplanes that were supposed to print money, that's our plan. We got to stack the plane. We got to sell it cheap. We got to get it out there. The very thing that was supposed to be an asset became a liability. Think about that. The asset became the burden. And in business, that happens faster than people realize. Because there was a company that made airplane engines named Pratt & Whitney that was connected to Spirit. And they had some engine issues and it grounded planes. So Spirit couldn't generate revenue efficiently. And airlines need utilization. A plane sitting still is like an Uber driver never turning the app on. No movement, no money. Yeah, you got people interested, but you're not going to get the money if you don't have that app on. And if you don't have that airplane in the sky flying, you're not getting the revenue you've projected and that you need. This is why I always tell entrepreneurs, don't just buy assets, buy productive assets. A car that makes money is different than a car that impresses people. A camera that generates revenue is different than jewelry sitting in a drawer. An asset should produce and not just consume. So we can't look at things and say, oh, this is worth this is worth that. Does it produce you any income? And see, while Spirit was dealing with grounded planes, newer aircraft technology was improving. Planes that could fly farther, carry more passengers, use less fuel. All this is happening while they're dealing with issues. And you can't benefit from innovation if your fleet is grounded. And that's exactly what happened with Spirit. And that's another lesson for us. Because sometimes the world keeps advancing while you're stuck in recovery mode. You're stuck in the past. You're crying over what happened in the past, not realizing that you're missing out on your future. So you've got to be very careful of this in anything. When your key resources, airplanes in this case, are compromised, that's a bad sign. And this is why margin is so important, because in life, you will deal with unforeseen circumstances. Do you think that Spirit expected for an airplane engine to go bad from a respected company? No, but it was unforeseen. And this is what Anthony O'Neill tries to teach us, is that, yeah, you can live and use debt and use leverage and be risky, but when things go awry, when you have unforeseen circumstances, do you have an emergency fund then? When something happens that you didn't plan for, have you saved up anything? And this is the problem. Here in this model, we find that it didn't work. Why did it not work? Let's look at the next pillar of the canvas. It didn't work because the cost structure. Another problem is that the airline business is brutal. You know, in studying for this talk, come to find out, airlines don't make a lot of money, period. Even the biggest and the best ones. Go look at their stocks. They're not that great because the airline business is a brutal business. So when you look at any business, you got to understand, what does it cost to even be in that industry? What does it cost? What's the cost structure of being in the airline industry? There's massive fixed costs. You got aircraft leases. You got union, pilot, labor. You got maintenance. You got airport gates that you have to pay for. You got insurance. But all of these things are inherent in the business model. They're inherent in the industry. And they're expensive, very expensive. And there are certain things that drive costs more than others. But the airline machine is expensive in itself before you even make $1. Okay? And this is why we've got to be smart entrepreneurs. We've got to be smart business people. Because some industries will destroy your entrepreneurial spirit because the margin for error is too tiny. You can't make any mistakes. And that's what happened to Spirit. Spirit got hit with a variable cost explosion, jet fuel. So not only are you dealing with fixed costs, so in business school, they talk about this. So you've got fixed costs. That's a fixed cost. They're fixed. Your fixed costs are going to be there regardless. You can't fly planes unless you have airplanes. So airplanes become a fixed cost. But in addition to the fixed costs, you got to watch out for variable costs, costs that vary. And so this is why it's so important, because Spirit reportedly had budgeted around $2 for fuel. They're smart people. These are people that are being paid thousands upon thousands of dollars. They forecasted, they thought about the future. They said, okay, likely given what we know about the market, jet fuel is probably going to be around $2. And as long as that stays true, we'll be able to weather the storm. But guess what happened? Guess what? An unforeseen circumstance happened. And fuel surged above $4. I think today is still high because the Iran war began. And no one knew that that was going to happen. Now, maybe you're still not getting it. So imagine this, selling tickets for your plane, assuming one cost structure, and then your biggest variable expense doubles afterward. Now that's dangerous, because how you going to make money like that? How you going to make money thinking it's going to cost you $5 to do it, selling tickets for $6, and come to find out it's costing you $8? So now, not only have you committed to a $6 ticket, you're losing $2 every time for every ticket that you sold. So everything you do is only accelerating your losses. Some people live their lives exactly like that. Well, I know I got a job. I know I'll get this back. I know, so I'm gonna go ahead and spend this. They pre-spend future income. They buy houses assuming overtime is gonna be there. They buy cars assuming that their business is gonna stay perfect, run up credit cards next month, assuming that, they'll be able to pay them off. Then life changes. Then they get laid off. Then there's a problem. And this is why emergency funds matter, because turbulence is not a possibility in life. It's a flat out guarantee. Things will and do go wrong. The Bible even says that you will have trouble. You will have situations. You will have circumstances in this life. The Bible guarantees it for my Bible believers out there. So watch this, key activities. Okay, hey, what's the key activities in your business? And for Spirit, it's very simple, right? The key activity was to fly planes profitably. But you can't fly profitably if planes are grounded, fuel prices explode, and margins are already razor thin. The money you have left over is already razor thin. And this is why when we think about key activities, when you're mapping out your business, this is why business owners need operational awareness. You can't just focus on revenue. You can't just focus on, oh, we got 10,000 this month. You need to understand what actually drives profitability. Did you get 10,000 because you had 10 cars? Or did you get 10,000 off of one car and the other 9 actually hurt your profit? You've got to get into those type of details. We've got to understand what's the driver. So a lot of times in life and in business and at work and on my corporate job, we're being asked to understand what drove that. Why? And as good business people, you've got to understand why. Not just looking at the rosy picture, because some people, they're talking about business online and they're showing you fancy stuff, but they have no understanding of economics. And that's dangerous. Some of us are selling courses and doing this and doing that, but don't even understand the practicality of business. If you've got to get new customers every time, that's a problem. You don't have any repeat customers. You're not building any loyalty. Reminds me of Spirit Airlines, and that could be a recipe for disaster. Your partners can multiply your business or destroy it. Spirit depended very heavily on aircraft manufacturers, airports, labor groups, lenders, and most importantly, financing partners. And see, once confidence disappeared, the ecosystem started collapsing because businesses rarely die alone. Entire systems collapse together. This applies personally to us as well. The wrong relationships, the wrong partners, the wrong people in the trenches with you can destroy your future financially. You got the wrong business partner, that's gonna be a problem. It'll reveal itself. You got the wrong lender, wrong influences, wrong financial habits around you. Some people are drowning because everybody around them normalizes drowning. Oh yeah, drowning is cool. No, it's not cool. Some people can't get ahead professionally because unprofessionalism is okay around them. It's normalized. In Spirit's case, they had partners that gave them debt, that helped pull them out of the first bankruptcy and out of the second bankruptcy, gave them rope, but it ended up only being rope that would eventually hang themselves because the debt that they were dealing with was not sustainable given their model. When you think about places like Delta Airlines, they got multiple customer segments. I can give you a premium, I can give you middle, I can give you economy, and I can give you basic economy. So there's a difference there. And when you have a different delivery system, luxury, premium, best, better, good, better, best, these different levels, you can now segment out your business in a different way. And so when we look at one of the other important factors of the canvas, this is CR, this is your customer relationships. What's the relationship with your customer like? And this might be the biggest lesson of all because Spirit, as I said earlier, built transactional customers, not relational customers. And that's very important because people didn't love Spirit. They loved the price and they tolerated Spirit. I'll get the price from you, but I don't love you. In fact, I'm going to negotiate with you. You've trained me how to fight you for every penny, every dollar, and I'm going to be mad doing it, and I'm not sure if I won or you won or who lost. And that's dangerous in business, because when hard times come, people only fight for brands they believe in. Why do we keep buying Apple products? Why do we keep using Microsoft? Why do we keep using Google? Because we fell in love with the brand. See, a strong business is not just profitable, it's durable. Now let's bring it personal. A strong financial life isn't just income, it's margin, it's cash flow, it's discipline, emergency savings, low debt, ownership, flexibility, focus, trust. See, some of y'all are building businesses that only work in perfect conditions. Your business only makes sense in the pandemic. Your business only makes sense if I can run cheap ads, have cheap labor, if I got cheap fuel, cheap credit, cheap customers. But wisdom builds a system that will survive turbulence. Not something where I gotta bamboozle everybody to be a customer. Not something where, people walk away not knowing what they got. Because I can guarantee you every business that's worth its salt is gonna hit some turbulence. And it won't just happen in business, every family is gonna hit some turbulence. Every friendship is gonna hit some turbulence. Every entrepreneur hits turbulence. The question is, when pressure comes, when it gets shaky, when you don't know which way to go, does your structure survive or does it collapse? The customer relationships that they built were not strong enough. They couldn't survive it. Last piece of the canvas is the channels. What channels are you delivering your value proposition through? Well, in the airline business, this is pretty simple. People get online, they get on apps. Sometimes they go through travel agents. They have different channels whereby they can get this. The interesting thing about the airline business is you can clearly see all the competition right away. You can see that, if I pay a little bit less, I can be with Frontier. If I pay a little bit more, I can be with JetBlue. If I pay a little bit more, I can get to Southwest. If I pay just a little bit more, I can be with American Airlines. A little bit more, I can be with Delta. And frankly, that's the real story behind Spirit Airlines. When things got shaky, it couldn't survive. It was good when it was good, but when things get shaky, it's good when you got a job, but when things get shaky, it's good when you're just starting out in your career, but when you get to the middle, and then it's close to retirement, things might start getting a little shaky then. You can't work like you used to work. You don't have as many people knocking on your door. Have you built new skill sets? Have you added more value? What will you be like when things get shaky? Are you preparing for when things get shaky? Because it will get shaky. It will happen. This is why you need to be paying yourself 10 to 20% every time you get paid. That's having a brokerage account. That's saving for retirement. This is why you need to own something, a home, a house, property, land, something where you can say it's yours. And if necessary, if it makes sense, if it's for asset building, income producing purposes, be able to leverage that. Have you started anything? Do you have a side hustle? Do you have a way you can do a bake sale or a garage sale or a Turo business or this or that to make a little extra income? Not so you can flex and blow, so that you can build and save for when things get shaky. You need to be able to, number 4, leave something. Have you thought about insurance? When life happens, all of a sudden, will your family be able to bury you? Because life does get shaky. And number 5, have you sought out help? Are you watching? Are you learning? Are you seeking new information to improve yourself? You are not stuck. You can grow. You can be more than what you've been. Your personality is not a prison. You can grow past where you've previously stopped growing. But I want you to look at the history, look at the story behind Spirit Airlines, and realize that things can work for a while, but when things get shaky, you need to have a firm financial foundation. And I hope that you stick with me, that you stay with this channel, that you learn how to do the basic things that will allow you not to just get money, but to keep it and build a future for not only yourself, but all those around you. Look, this is your boy, StephenMotivate. If this helped you, please, I only ask you to send it to somebody else. And until next time, I want you to stay motivated.